Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody, to our Monday, July 24th regular meeting of the Porter County Board of Commissioners. We'll start with the consent agenda.
Approval of payroll, July 21st, 2023. Approval of claims, July 13th and July 20th, 2023. Approval of minutes for June 26th, 2023.
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Announcements. Barb, you want to handle this first one?
Sure. We are seeking applications for the West Porter Township Fire Protection District Board. You must be a Porter County resident of Lake of the Four Seasons. The applicant will complete the remainder of the term of Jack Weber, which will end on December 31st, 2024. The deadline for the application is 4:30 on August 3rd, and the appointment will be made at the Commissioners' August 8th meeting.
Yeah, go ahead with the sheriff's report.
Okay, I just wanted to also remind people, anyone that is interested in leasing out the sheriff's residence, we're going to be doing a walkthrough of the building on Wednesday, July 26th. That's this coming Wednesday at 10 a.m. And if anybody needs the address or any other information, you can stay after the meeting and we'll talk about that, okay?
Just one other thing, it's not here on the agenda, but I wanted to point out that this is Kurt Ellis's last meeting, that Kurt is retiring. Is that enough? He had a full head of black hair when he started here, now it's just not that. But I just wanted to tell you, we really appreciate the job you've done. You basically, blazed the trail for that position. It didn't exist before you showed up, and thank you. Thank you for those 3 a.m. text messages as well. All right, Highway Department. We have a local technical assistance program, awards presented to employees who have completed the road builder program. We have a representative from Indiana LTAP. He's speaking.
So, Commissioners, thank you for allowing us a few minutes.
Could you state your name first?
My name is Rich DeMoncos. I'm with the Program Manager with the Indiana Local Technical Assistance Program. And I'm here to do the favorite part of my job, and that's hand out awards, right? Everything else is work, this is fun. So I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'll be very, very quick, but I wanted to give you a little context of what the award is. It's our road builder program. At Indiana LTAP, we're a resource for our cities, towns, and counties. Our road builder program has been around since 2004. And Porter County has a rich history with the program, with several graduates over that time frame. So what we're going to do today is we're going to add 6 new names to that list from the Porter County Highway Department. That list currently includes 228 road builder graduates, 79 master road builder graduates from 98 different cities, towns, and counties across the state of Indiana. So it's a great achievement for the county, for the individuals who took the time to complete the program, and certainly, hopefully, that translates into a reward for them, and then also in their work for the residents of Porter County. But we'd like to recognize today Sean Calvin.
When he calls your name, could you please come up?
He moved to Florida.
He moved to Florida. This is a really good award here.
That's going to be a long wait.
Jeremy Lloyd. He's off today. Jim Pollock is staying behind me. Justin Smith, right there. Mike Wallace. Robert Goodman. He's off today. And then I'm stapled part of it, Timothy Richardson. Timothy's back there. And I know he's in Florida, but we'd also like to recognize Sean Calvin for receiving his Master Road Builder, which is that next level of achievement in the program. And I mention that because it's also an achievement for the county. Devoting the time to make sure that the county highway workers are able to grow and learn is a wonderful achievement. And I would say, over the years that I've been doing this program, Porter County is one of those counties that kind of lead the way in that. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Do we have any oh, I don't have that phone. Use this phone, so. Any volunteers to take the photo? I got it. There you go, it's all right. Hell yeah. I gotta get in the photo with these hands. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I think it's 4, so last one. There we go. Nice job. Very good.
Thank you, John. Commissioners, we have an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Health and Safety by the addition of Article, what is that, what number is that, Scott?
13?
13?
13.
Prohibition on the retail sale of dogs, cats, or rabbits by pet shops. This is the second reading. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we amend Chapter 12, Health and Safety by the addition of Article 13, Prohibition on the retail sale of dogs, cats, or rabbits by pet shops on the second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. It is now law. We have an ordinance establishing a non-reverting fund 4001 for the deposit of rental income from Porter County government-owned property, second reading.
I move that we approve establishing a non-reverting fund number 4001 for the deposit of rental income from Porter County government-owned properties on second reading.
Do we have, I'll entertain a motion. Was that your motion?
That was my motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved. A discussion regarding the transfer of funds which come before the commissioners. It's been brought to my attention earlier this year, we have our department heads that have to come before the commissioners for a simple transfer of funds within their budget. And then they go in front of the council to have a final approval. I felt, I brought it to the commissioner's attention, I felt it unnecessary to come before this board unless somebody can point something out to me that I'm missing. Because at the end of the day, it is the fiscal body that's going to make that decision, so why come before us to begin with? So, entertain discussion here. Scott?
The logic for why the rule was put into place originally about 7 or 8 years ago was because and it only applies to the commissioner's actual departments, and so it was to have a situation in which one of your departments that you are in charge of their department head, you are aware and have the ability to ask questions before they're in front of the council. The reason it came up in the past was that if you had, highway department or or Expo making a request, if it doesn't go through the commissioner's agenda, then you could have that department go to the council, ask for something. This board's unaware of it. What ended up happening in the past was the day of the council meeting, you would start getting calls of why this department was asking for this, and whether or not this board was aware at that moment was the problem, and that's why we put it on the agenda, so that if at that point the commissioners all had an opportunity to say, yeah, we were well aware of the transfer or the additional, this is why they're doing it, we heard it at our meeting, we approved it, and we support it. That was the underlying logic. I'm aware that it holds no weight legally. This board is not the fiscal body. But that's why it was only for the commissioners' departments themselves, so that you wouldn't have that situation. But if we want to come up with a different scenario, that's fine. But it was designed to not get the call Tuesday morning, why is Department XYZ asking for something? Whoever that councilman's calling on this three-headed board may or may not know why IT has a request, or Highway has a request, or Expo has a request. And so that's why it was confined down to the commission. That was the logic. Whether or not this board wants to continue with that is up to the board, but that's the reason. Not to confuse people that somehow you are approving transfers. You're approving, in reality, your department head to make the request with the blessing of this board when they're in front of the commission, when they're in front of the council, because they've had to go through this. So the commissioners have seen it and have voted on it. So it can't be a surprise to anyone. That was the trailing logic.
Do you agree, Laura? You agree?
Sure.
Never mind. We're good. We have here, let's see, scale made proposal of construction management services for the renovation of the Memorial Opera House.
And we also have the Schmidt Associates.
You guys can do these together. We've done them once contingent on the council appropriation. The motion was very precise on the date of that additional appropriation, so that's why we're here again. But we can take them both. They're the same ones we've approved contingent, I believe, 2 meetings ago.
I move that we approve the proposal of construction management services for the renovation of the Memorial Opera House with Skillman, as well as a proposal of services for the renovation of the Memorial Opera House with Schmidt.
Second.
Is that thunder? Or-
I voted for it last time.
No, it's not. We're actually getting to a vote here. And thank both of you. Thank Barb for the hard work you've done, and Lori for the hard work you've done over the years trying to get it to this point. I know it's not perfect. It's not everything that all of us have wanted. Some of us wanted the add-on, and some of us didn't. But what we can come away with today is that building's now going to get renovated. So that's a good thing. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Okay. Cary, Health Department, we have an ordinance establishing non-reverting fund 8917 for tobacco prevention from the Health Innovation Partnership and Program Health Issues and Challenges Grant, first reading. Is Cary here?
Yes, I'm right here. Sorry.
This is your first time in front of us.
It is?
It's scary, isn't it?
She doesn't look
Could you tell us a little bit about this?
I sure can. There is a group of health initiatives and challenges grant that were offered through the state for various different health initiatives, and we had received the lead grant and also one for tobacco. It's specifically to assist the Porter County Tobacco Coalition with youth cessation. And so it's funding for a 2-year period for its salaries and wages. So it would be a part-time person who would work a couple days a week to go into the schools to present the program that the Tobacco Coalition has come up with.
So it'll be, what, 2 part-time positions?
No, it'll be
One?
one person probably that just works a couple of days a week.
Okay. This is the first reading, so I'll have to close the commissioners' meeting and open up the public meeting. We'll start with those not in favor of this ordinance, if it is to be passed, step forward. Anyone not in favor of this ordinance, please step forward. Third and final call, anyone not in favor of this ordinance, please step forward. Anyone in favor of this ordinance, please step forward. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance, please step forward. Come on up. Just state your name, please.
I'm Carrie Higgins. I'm actually the program director for the Tobacco Coalition for Porter County. And our funding has been cut. And so we really have no programming going into the schools in Porter County right now for prevention and education. We have a great program that we can take into the schools, but our grant only allows us to train teachers to do that or train other folks in organizations. As you know, teachers have plenty to do. They don't want one more thing to do. So we're hoping with this extra funding that is coming from the state that we would be able to actually get someone into our schools to help with the vaping epidemic in our kids. And it would be a great help to the coalition.
Great, thank you. Third and final call, anybody else would like to come forward and speak in favor of this ordinance? We'll close the public session, open back up to the Board of Commissioners. I'll entertain either a conversation or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Facilities, Daniel Sullivan. We had a hydro management, a contract to provide monthly monitoring and treatment of closed loop water systems used in HVAC, such as boiler and cooling tower loops at the Valpo Courthouse, Portage Courthouse, JDC Center, or JDC Building, and the Admin Building, at a monthly cost of $698.50, or an annual cost of $8,382.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit.
This is, as it says, basically means of maintaining the investment we made in those new boilers a few years ago. It keeps the water that's flowing through them at just the right balance that doesn't cause corrosion and so forth. And it's a pretty standard means of keeping those things running smoothly and giving as much as 50 years out of them, what you'd hope for a boiler. That's the hope.
Any questions by the board? Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the contract with Hydro Management to provide monthly monitoring and treatment of the closed-loop water systems used in our buildings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, if you want to take a couple seats over here if you want to sit down. Don't be shy. Yeah? Make me nervous standing up. Development and Stormwater Management, Bob Thompson, Director. Good evening, Bob.
Good evening.
We have a request for a zoning map amendment from A1 General Agricultural District to I2 General Industrial District. Petitioner Nelson Schoen, Project Ribeye, second reading.
Yes, this was the petitioner Nelson R. Schoen for Project Ribeye requesting an amendment, zoning map amendment from A1 General Agricultural to I2 General Industrial District. It was approved first reading with written commitments. The written commitment document, I believe, was signed and sent down to the commissioners for review. It did have the items that were requested by the Plan Commission, plus we added the hours of operation as the commissioners requested at their first reading.
Any questions by the board? Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the zoning map amendment from A1 General Agricultural District to I2 General Industrial District for Nelson Schoen Project Ribeye on second reading.
With the board or the
Yes, with
stormwater
the-
recommended
Written commitments.
written commitments. Thank you. Second.
And then you're,
Yes.
okay. There's a second. We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Northwest Indiana Now, Julie Storbeck. You're welcome. We have a request. Is Julie here, by any chance? We have a request for the courthouse grounds on Monday, July 31st, from 5:30 PM to 8:30 PM to hold a vigil on the eve of the enactment of the SB 1 abortion ban. They will provide information on their work to enact the ERA, their work of gender equality, and what Reproductive health care is still legally available. They will have tents set up for voter registration, water stations, and first aid. There will also be banners. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second. We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you much.
Valpo Events, Katie Abel. You request to use the courthouse grounds on Saturday, September 9th, 2023, for the 44th Annual Popcorn Festival. On site will be a popcorn tent with industrial popping machines. What's an industrial popping machine look like? We gotta get one of those. Medic tent and water station, Northwest Indiana Tents will begin tent set up on Wednesday, September 6th. They are also requesting the use of the judge's parking lot after close of business on Friday, September 8th for EMS medic setup needs. They would also like to access the roof of 157 Franklin to use the antenna and use of the parking spots not occupied by the 911 employees in the lot at 157 Franklin for handicap parking, which they will have Porter County Sheriff's monitoring throughout the day. Is Katie here?
She's not going to be here, Commissioner, but this is basically the same request they make
They
every
make every year? Yeah, okay.
One more thing.
Yes.
Are we going to charge $10 for parking in our parking garage as we have in the past?
We should. That's pretty much our entire budget outside of what Valpo pays us.
Oh, for the,
For the garage.
okay. Well, we can't do that on this one. It has to be separate,
Yeah.
correct? So I'll entertain a motion for Valpo Events to occupy the property on September 9th as I later described.
So moved.
Second.
A motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. So Scott, how do you suggest we do that? Because there was we didn't advertise, we were going to talk about that.
Well, we can have a motion to talk about it, and then we can talk about it, so.
So moved. You second it?
I second.
All right, let's talk about it.
So we have an agreement with the City of Valparaiso. There's certain payments made that was allowed that parking garage to remain free and open during the day and evening. And then we have, as part of that agreement, it was contemplated, and what we've done since that agreement is during the Popcorn Fest itself, we have our parking garage available, but it's $10 to park in it for the day. And that does make up,
So we were doing this last year,
correct?
Many years.
Yes,
for many years.
Yes.
yes. This isn't new.
So do we have to do anything?
Well, Melanie brought it up, so I'm assuming that we needed to.
She's not allowed to talk anymore.
Well, I like
have
the idea,
voted
let's
on it.
raise it to 15 or 20.
Guys, things are tough right now. I know where you're coming from, but I don't want to do that.
I'll make a motion to charge $10 per car at the Popcorn Fest.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to continue to establish a $10 parking fee for the county garage here at 100 Indiana Avenue?
155.
Well,
It's his first day.
Talking about the garage. Anyway, all those in favor say aye.
You're making it worse.
I know.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. That wasn't hard. SCA 4 discussion. Nobody's been waiting for this, right?
Popped up on you.
This is.
Well, while you guys are getting settled, I just want to repeat what I said at our last meeting, in case someone is not familiar. This started off as Senate Bill 4, which was the health bill. And once this legislation went into effect, the name changed to Senate Enrolled Act 4. And this legislation actually went into effect on July 1st. I know a number of people have been emailing us, either encouraging us to opt in or opt out of the legislation, and actually, we have no control over the legislation. It did go into effect on July 1st. However, I know what we are going to be talking about today, and I wanted to let anybody that is interested, if you do download the SEA4 legislation document from iga.in.gov, there are 5 sections that do pertain to opting into the additional funding. And if you want to make note of them, it's 19, 43, 47, 50, and 51. So those 5 sections of SEA4 apply to the conversation we're about to have.
Thank you for clarifying that, Commissioner. In fact, my mother was looking at the agenda today for tonight's meeting, and she said, Maria, I don't see you on here. So I went back and furiously looked at the agenda. I said, oh, it's SEA4 now. So yeah, the having to know what that means is something helps. Yeah.
And we did, I apologize, we got up here a little bit later, but in the back, there are the one-sheeters about the Governor's Public Health Commission itself, and then also about our local funding, just kind of those up there in the back for everybody to see. Do you guys want those? Okay. So first of all, just thank you so much, Commissioners, for having us here to discuss to us the Health First Indiana Initiative. That's what the robust funding portion of it's called.
Carrie, can I stop you
yes.
for a second? Is any of your board members here tonight? All of you up here in the front here that's not sitting in the front? The reason I'm doing that is that, pouring over that legislation, what is crystal clear is the Board of Health plays a pivotal role here, a huge role, along with the Board of Commissioners. So I'm as eager to hear from Dr. Stamp and Carrie and you all as well as we move along with this. I apologize.
Yes, no, do not, thank you, you're correct, thank you so much. So next slide, please. So the reason that we have 2 numbers up here is because the graphic shows the state of Indiana with the 45 counties that had opted in as of last Monday. As of this morning, it's actually 54 counties that have currently opted into the funding. And so when you look at our funding information, we're going to talk about our potential funding for next year. You'll see that we are using that minimum amount. We are at the point where enough counties have opted in and they do expect more, that we would be potentially receiving that minimum funding amount for Porter County. And so on this next slide, you can see we just kind of used the approximate 1.3 levy average. So that's the average of the 2021, 22, and 23 levies would be the Porter County portion for this year going forward, and then that minimum funding amount for the potential funding. This is an initiative that is a public health infrastructure bill. So it gives local health departments what's intended to be appropriated ongoing funding to analyze the needs in their community, knowing that each county in Indiana is going to have different gaps and different needs, and be able to develop programs to meet those needs, either in-house or by working with other organizations in the area. So as you know, to receive the funding, the local county commissioners would need to opt in. So this shows a commitment for the commissioners to work with the Board of Health and the Health Department to support public health, both in our program development and in ongoing funding. So then this shows, again, like I said, that co-funding amount potential for 2024. And then again, the potential at the bottom for 2025, going into the second year. Next slide. So the expectation from the Indiana Department of Health is that we would fund core services, and we would spend at least 60% of the funding on the core services that you see on this first slide. And so these are the services that are like the health issues across the state. And then the 40%, up to 40% can be spent on services that you more frequently see as like the regulatory services. So for the 60 to 100%, these are what we see as nursing or health educated related services, and they're going to involve collaborations with multiple divisions of our department. For example, for vital statistics, vital statistics and nursing are both involved in fatality review operations and fatality review boards, and nursing, foods, and environmental divisions work together on communicable disease outbreaks. So then if we go to the next slide, these are considered our regulatory services. They're important for healthy backgrounds, healthy environments, but often they're behind the scenes. We do perform most of these core services. However, for vector, pest, and vector control, our environmental health supervisor does have his pesticide applicator's license. We do see this as an area where we can grow in the future in this core service. So as you can see, this is a really ambitious list of core services. We do a really great job in Porter County. We do provide most of these services on some scale, but there are some that we are not completely equipped to provide. So with this funding, we would be able to contract some services, and we would also potentially be able to administer some sub-grants where we would partner with other agencies to provide some of the services and grant some of the funds. Next slide.
So in anticipation, hopefully, of Porter County opting in to the Health First Indiana, here we have begun some planning. And so we wanted to give you a timeline of what we have done so far and what we anticipate doing in the coming months to allow us to develop and improve our services intentionally. So I believe in front of you, you have a copy of our assessment, the large spreadsheet there of our current services in these core areas, and then how much staffing goes into the services, what needs to be done to meet the initial KPIs. And then, or those are key performance indicators. We'll hear that word a lot going forward. And this spreadsheet was developed by a Board of Health member, and most of our Board of Health members have had the opportunity to contribute to the document either directly or indirectly by way of recommendation already. So we, of course, welcome collaboration, and it's required with the commissioners. As has been said here before, the commissioners see and hear a lot about needs, areas of needs in Porter County. So that's really important to have you all involved too, please. This is a working document, not quite ready for prime time, but we'll talk a little bit later about how that will get out to the public when it's time. Internally, we have developed a basic public health survey and have released it on a smallish scale, and we've received some community response. We're looking at collating that information coming up here. We're looking to tailor this survey to be a little bit more specific to different areas, to get input from areas like healthcare providers, from businesses, and from other service providers too. So hopefully that will help guide our planning. We did reach out to the Pierce Group, which is a healthcare consulting firm, and received a proposal for a formal community needs assessment that we're going to bring before our board in August for hopefully approval, and then we'll go forward with this needs assessment. This is the group that did the suicide prevention assessment for Porter County last year, and they come very highly recommended. So we believe that having an outside organization engage our stakeholders and review our data will help us prioritize our needs and hone in our programming. We have funding currently to complete the healthcare needs assessment with the Pierce Group. And so our hope is to actually have this project completed this fall. We don't have to wait for funding January 1st to get this started. And then understanding, so this slide and then the next slide, understanding that our budget is due on September 1st to the Indiana Department of Health, which is coming up here pretty quickly. We have started work on this also. The state is really looking to make sure that the funding that the Health First Indiana funds provide go toward that 60-40 requirement. Of course, if we had all nursing needs and needed to spend more than 60%, that would be just fine. They just don't want us to see, they don't want to see us spending 50% of the money on foods inspections or one of the regulatory issues, unless that really in the county is really needed, and then waivers are actually available for that too. So it's really great and flexible for the needs of the county. So we'll start with that and then adjust it as need be. They understand that this is coming, that this submitting our budget is coming up quickly, and that there will be changes. They understand that. So we just need to keep an open line of communication with the Department of Health about that too. The next slide. Okay, so that is the budget, and then going forward, once we have determined what we will be able to do in-house and what we will need to work with our partners for, then we will develop our job descriptions, MOUs, grant opportunities, post those positions, hire, and then this coming year in 2024, the Indiana Department of Health would like the counties to develop their own KPIs so that we have metrics to look at and go forward to make sure we're meeting them and guide our programming appropriately. Our next slide is a screenshot of the budget template for that we need to submit to the State Department of Health. I know it's really small, hard to read there, but the point is the yellow line and the green line, they're really focused on whether that 60% is there for funding in those nursing and education services. I do like that they are requesting us to put our funding requests and our salaries, our FTEs, toward a core service. And we've never really looked at our budget that way. How much of what we do, how much money of what we do is spent on any given area? We do have some, big numbers that way, and of course our grants are prescriptive that way. But I kind of like this idea that we are looking at our services and figuring out really what in our budget is going toward what services we provide. Dr. Boxham, our board chairperson, is going to be talking about our next slide.
So once we got wind of this bill, we internally, the health department, started thinking about assessing the needs that we already provide. Whether this bill passed or not, this is something that was important for us to start looking into, to assess what we provide. Are there gaps? What should we do to help, improve upon those gaps? And so we started our own internal assessment along with reviewing vital statistics. And now, since the bill has passed, we've gotten some community survey reviews. So we've just started some initial planning on how to start addressing those things. And I also want to thank you guys for letting us speak in front of you. We've been waiting for this for a while. The first item mentioned is linkage to care. What we've been calling it so far is the care coordinator. Access to care, or for patients or for the public to know what to do, can be confusing. People cannot know what the next step may be. They get handed a bad diagnosis, a questionable environmental act, and they don't know where to go to next. And so developing a person to be a human being to help direct them as to the next step to go, and then we can devise a relationship with different places to help be that gap filler and help people find the next step, whether it be with, helping with maternal health or something in the environment that someone's dealing with. But having that person on hand there to help that situation out, I think will help instead of someone being overwhelmed with a daunting diagnosis. That person should be knowledgeable of the services in our area and then help find that care for the person in terms of whatever they may need. The next item would be maternal and child health. I'm all on the same one, I'm just taking a long time. So this is obviously a big topic for the state and for any local community. Maternal and child health is a priority for anyone in healthcare, starting from the beginning of someone getting a positive, a pregnancy test, where to go next, all the way through the pregnancy to have a healthy, supported pregnancy, and then postpartum care and the care of an infant and child. So all of those points need addressing, and we would like to help develop further plans to help all of those points to improve maternal and child health care in our community. Chronic and disease prevention and screenings. So this is a huge factor towards morbidity and mortality in our community, to help people find screens, to be aware of when they should get their screens. What should they do if a screen test comes positive for diabetes or an STI? How do they get treatment for their chronic illnesses? I just read a study about there was so many people who had medications for blood pressure but weren't taking them appropriately. So just in terms of help in management of chronic diseases, both in prevention, both in screening, both in treatment as well. Trauma and injury prevention, trauma and injury will be the number one reason for childhood deaths. So this is obviously a huge thing to continuously address, and obviously with our elderly as well. So drowning, fall prevention, firearm safety, these things may feel like they're out there, but I think the more we drill these types of safety information towards people, the less we can have for accident and injuries. Outreach, those of us who work in this community will find that a lot of times people just don't know how to get to us, and so we can now have more capabilities of getting out to those people who can't find us or get to us, and for us to develop plans to do that. And a school liaison, we would love to have a full-time school liaison to always have that point of contact to our schools. Again, like we had mentioned before, to partnership with the Tobacco Coalition. We all know that vaping is a huge issue with our youth, and to increase helping our schools and helping with our smoking and vaping scenarios would be something that would be extremely helpful and would be excited to start upon. I think that's it, yeah.
Next slide. I do have a couple things that I would like to mention regarding this bill. They're a little bit more of the minutia. We need to keep in mind that any new position that we're creating with this funding, or any grants or contracts, MOUs, they'll need to be posted for 30 days. We do plan on our website to add a button or change a button to have a link to all things Health First Indiana regarding our county. And that would include links to surveys, to the plans that we develop, to postings for hiring and contracts, those types of things. And then also, for instance, if we go through with the community needs assessment, that result would go on there, the assessment would go on there, those kind of things, so that everybody could find them in one place. Any KPIs we would develop, those types of things would all go to this spot on our website.
Just ask on that community needs assessment, is that going to be all areas of public health, the 60 and the 40%, both areas?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. Well, we feel that it is important to be, we may as well do it thorough right off the bat,
Yeah.
right? The funds are non-reverting if, this first year is a planning year, if there's something we need to save for, whatever, we can do that. The money doesn't need to go back to the state and stays in public health. We do expect our management costs to increase along with our programming increases, to be honest and fair about this. And we do anticipate probably in the next year or so hiring somebody who will help us with health finance or grant management. They would work with the auditors and with any subgrantees that we would potentially have to make sure that the work is being done appropriately and that the finances are being managed appropriately. That would just be too much for one administrator to do on their own. And then only 10% of these funds can be spent on capital purchases. If we need more than that in a given year, we can kind of work the budget as the money from the county levy does not have that limitation on it, but, and it can be saved from year to year also. So we do really need a bathroom in the health department to collect specimens. So we'll be working on that post haste. I really appreciate the time you've allotted us to talk about this, and we are happy to answer any questions we can answer for you.
Yeah, I do have a question in terms of the ongoing assessment. Obviously, you guys, you're going to do this great job of doing this needs assessment, and I love that idea. But as you move down the road, are you going to have any sort of ongoing process where you will be able to continue to see? Because, you know, you might have some providers that just drop out of whatever they've been doing before, and now you have a new gap. Or somebody else is picking up the slack in some area that you were covering before. So are you going to have somebody that's just continuing to scan the
Right,
services?
exactly. We certainly hope to. That is really the ideal way public health works, is you find a need, you do an assessment, find a need, address that need, and reassess and make sure that you're moving forward. We have not discussed with the Pierce Group yet going forward whether that would need to be done through them or whether that would be done through our KPIs that we develop internally. I see that if any key performance indicators we set based on our current situation in Porter County, if we are only looking at those, we could miss new things. Right? So we will need to always kind of have our finger on the pulse of what's going on in Porter County and address new needs and issues that arise and integrate that in with our services if it's something that needs to be done. How that exactly looks just yet and what way we'll do that is, we aren't certain yet. The linkage to care position, you were mentioning providers dropping out. I see this linkage, this care coordinator person really understanding and knowing who is in the community providing what services and care. It's potentially a big position to get to know what all is available and how to get people plugged in. And then when people retire and when businesses close or organizations are no longer functioning in Porter County, that's going to be on that person to keep everything updated along those lines as far as referral to care goes.
Question, did your board have the opportunity to review your presentation tonight?
We have not, well, everybody has seen the presentation, they've received a copy of it. We have not had a board meeting since June. Our next meeting is August 1st.
Well, first of all, to say this, I mean, we've been given a huge gift, every county in the state by the taxpayers. I know some state lawmakers want to say it was a gift from them. No, it's from the state taxpayers. And so, I mean, it's really going to be important that we all are communicating at every level to make this thing work. Because, my experience in government is my experience that it has not been good when large sums of money have been flushed into, an agency without, proper planning and oversight. It almost always crashes and burns. And I just hope that at every step of the way that your board is communicating with you, and you're communicating with your board.
I would like to add, in regards to that, despite the fact that we haven't had a meeting since June, there has been a lot of email communication. I specifically put forth an email to our board for anyone to add anything that they would like to see included in this if they haven't felt that it has been, what items that they think that are important to address, because all of us have different experiences in the community, and most of the board has responded with very specific ideas and plans.
And that's probably, with a budget the size that it looks like you're going to end up with, you're going to have to meet more than you've been meeting.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do that if you're really going to stay up on this and monitor it, especially this first year is going to be critical. You're all going to be trailblazers for the people who replace you one day. You're either going to get it right and it's going to be the model, or you're going to get it wrong and be the example as to why it needs to be done different. So, just one other thing I want to add here is that y'all have a huge job in front of you. It's a huge job. I hope that our older residents, our senior residents, because we are an aging population here in Northwest Indiana and Porter County, that you're moving forward with them in mind.
Sure.
I'm not saying that because I'm getting old. We hear it as commissioners about, older people being able to get to the doctor,
Absolutely.
somebody checking on them, that sort of thing. And just please keep that in mind when you're moving forward. Thank you. Any other questions by,
So what do we need to do right now?
Scott, what do we do?
We need to have a motion and a second to opt in or opt out.
Well, I move that
Pretty
we opt
simple.
in for the additional funding for the Health First Indiana program. I'm going to call it your official name now.
Yes.
Instead of
It's
SBA
hard.
for
Every day it
additional funding,
changes.
Health First
HFI,
Indiana
yeah.
funding.
And I will second that, and thank you for all of your work and efforts on communicating to us what exactly this bill means and how we're going to move forward with the money. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of our population benefiting from our health department.
And I hope that we can see your board here more often as well, because obviously this is a huge undertaking, and you all have a very big responsibility, and we'd love to hear your progress. And when you do come, and when you do develop your health plan for Porter County, I'd love for you to come back and share that with us.
Excellent, happily.
I look forward to that.
Okay.
yeah,
Great.
it's a huge opportunity. Be the example of
It's exciting.
how it should be done. Right. We have a motion and a second to opt in to SE4.
SEA4, additional funding.
Additional funding. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, ladies.
There's only one guy in that whole crowd.
Any other matter which may properly come before the Board of Commissioners? State your name, please.
Oh, my name is Dawn Miller. I just want to say how I'm disappointed that the $5 million renovation project has been approved, passed. There are 10 other counties that don't benefit from the MOH. The COVID ARPA money could have and should have been put towards various other things. One example would be the homelessness, which is on the rise in many of the 11 Porter counties. That's all on that. On the SEA bill, why is it called funding? When I was speaking to Senator Charbonneau, the money is coming out of his pocket and our pocket, so it's basically taxpayer money. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Would you please step to the microphone, ma'am? Any one of them, either front here, or you can take this one here. Just state your name. You don't have to tell us where you live, just your name.
My name is Barbara Catellis.
I actually live in Hobart, Indiana, but I'm here because your county offered this hearing today and public discussion. We went to the one in Lake County, and they wouldn't even put it on the agenda, have a public hearing or any discussion. However, we're faced with the same situation. I used to live in Portage. I think our legislators have done a disservice to us. Senator Charbonneau and Senator Kenley got the ball rolling. I want to read you some comments that Senator Kenley made. He's from Noblesville. He said the discussion of this bill is related to overcoming the pushback related to mandates. They want to act like it has nothing to do with mandates, but this was actually their discussion, quotes. And, quote, how to eliminate deviations, unquote. A deviator is a person who cherishes and practices freedoms. Senator Kenley from Noblesville even discussed re-education campaigns, again in quotes, for resistant counties. There were legislators who had local health departments that wanted to operate autonomously without participating in the state program. And Senator Kenley said, we need to lovingly support them in their misdirection. This doesn't sound like a legislature that was really in touch with its people. The young lady over there talked about surveys going forward. I kind of wish they would have done a survey before they started this, because the taxpayers didn't ask for this bill. There are no metrics for this bill. I don't know how you can pass a bill and then do a whole litany of metrics and measurements afterwards. It's like Nancy Pelosi said, the bill's so big you have to pass it to know what's in it. If the economy was down, where is this big tax bump coming from? It makes no sense. What it actually means is that we have been overtaxed. If this $1.6 billion is coming from tax money, we've been overtaxed. That money, or the greatest portion of it, should have been returned to the taxpayers, like it was a few years ago when we got a tax refund. Why on the board is there a veterinarian and representative of the NAACP? What is that all about?
Leave it here, please. They're not out there to answer anybody's question.
I know. It's a rhetorical question. I felt like there should be a mayor on this board, and this is a board appointed by the governor. It's not elected by anyone. And I believe it's true that in the discretionary money that people that they hire now, they were talking about new hires, they can pay off some of their student loans with that money. That's one of the things that's in there.
With this money?
With the discretionary part, yeah.
I don't think that's happening.
Well, I think I read it there. So, I guess that's all I have to say. I'm really disappointed in our legislators. It's kind of like we're doing the same job that we were doing before, but we're doing it more. If they want to collect data on people, as my legislator said, or my former legislator, they redrew the district lines, and she's no longer my legislator, but she said, wouldn't it be good to know how many people in the state of Indiana have tuberculosis? And I said, well, I guess so, but you can just get an email or pick up the phone. Of course, this was at the beginning. I've been following this bill for months, but anyway, I guess it's going to be reassessed in 2 years, and we can hope that it either works or that we can get rid of it. But you know, when you establish a huge bureaucracy like this looks like it's going to be, it's pretty hard to fire people. Just saying that. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know, Ma'am, I appreciate your concerns. You know, I'm not asking a question. I can appreciate them. You know, if this is not the right thing to do, this piece of legislation, we're going to know fairly quickly.
I know, and I appreciate the comments that you said earlier. You're
But-
absolutely right.
But I also know that as a, you know, serving in county government for 20 years, is that, you know, there's a lot of people out there that need help. People that you and I don't see at a regular basis, that they're homebound, or they're, you know, they're, you know, many of them are children. And I hope that, my hope is that a year from now, we can say without hesitancy, we did the right thing here. And that's, yeah, I do. But I understand where you're coming from, and Dawn, you as well, you're entitled to your opinions, and I understand the concern. I had, trust me, I had a lot of concern, still have concern. That's why there's a lot of responsibility on these people that sit on the board and that work in the administration and with the employees in general with the Board of Health. They have a huge responsibility here that they've never had before when all this starts rolling. And that's why I said, you know, let's be the example of how it was done right. We'll get our opportunity, so let's take advantage of it. But thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Johannes Poulard, and I was a candidate for Indiana State Senate District 4 last year, and I'm running for Indiana State Senate again in 2026. I have a huge concern with Senate Bill 4, and as I am going to be a candidate again, I've been studying the way our General Assembly works, and I have spoken with former state reps and current state reps. I don't know how many of you are aware of what a caucus is. In the General Assembly, both houses hold caucuses. In the caucus, they get to decide what bills are heard, what bills are not heard, and any representative that the Speaker of the House or the Senate President pro temp does not care about could be excluded from the caucus. Senate Bill 4 was voted for in one of those caucuses. It was voted for without hearing the opinion of the people of Indiana, because the Senate President pro temp, Roderick Bray, and Speaker of the House, Todd Houston, and Governor Eric Holcomb both knew of the opposition across the state from about Senate Bill 4. And my deepest concern about Senate Bill 4 is the centralizing of the health departments to be under the control of Indianapolis. And the next time they want to plan another pandemic like we had with COVID, which I never bought as a pandemic from day one. I just things did not add up from what I've read up back when I was a kid. Mandates. The mask mandate, which I never complied with, refused to comply with, and with the vaccine, with the COVID vaccine, so many people got injured by this vaccine, including my father. Thank God his injury wasn't that severe. The other day, a classmate of mine from 8th grade gave me a call, and she told me she got the first dose. A week later, she had to have a stent put in her. And you hear all these stories about people who've been vaccinated for COVID are having myocarditis, they're dying from strokes, they're dying from heart attack. You have athletes that are dropping dead on the playing field. You know, if you guys are going to get that funding, I would hope that there would be some kind of health care to be able to treat all the injuries that people who have been vaccinated are having. A lot of these injuries have changed their lives. Fortunately, I never took the vaccine, and I'm not about to take any mandated vaccine, period. That doesn't mean I'm against vaccines. I understand the science of vaccines. But this was not a vaccine, and mRNA just doesn't work. So this is my biggest concern. You heard Fauci say that there was going to be another pandemic. You heard that Joe Biden has been saying that. Dr. Tedros of the World Health Organization has said that. And also, I understand that our governor attended both the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland. I think we really need to pay attention. There are some very sinister intentions with all these health bills, with Senate Bill 4, and it just opens the opportunity for medical tyranny to come into this state. And the thing I'm very concerned about, that there's language in this bill about a digital vaccine passport, which I'm categorically against. And I will vow, if elected in 2026, I will vote draft legislation to repeal Senate Bill 4, because it's quite clear that in most of Indiana, there are so many people that are against this bill, and the language by that senator, not Charbonneau, but the other one, Kenley, lovingly guide the counties that are misdirected. I mean, that, if that doesn't sound Stalinesque, I don't know what does. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much, and I want to say thank you to the board and all those in attendance here. My name is Lisa Kiger. I am Worth Community Healthcare System. We have 4 hospitals here in Northwest Indiana, and I value, so thank you for your input. I'm very thankful that we live in a country where we have freedom of speech and that we can take everybody's input. I think this SCA 4 can very much be a positive for our community. I do love the fact that we have some goals, and I did see the MOU, Memorandums of Understanding. I would like to let you know that I would love several of the things that the committee covered. We, as a healthcare system, we are not-for-profit. We have already done, and I would love to see some collaboration with these healthcare departments. Just recently, our healthcare system did do a community needs assessment, and you are right on track. I think in our guts, we know some of the key issues here in Northwest Indiana, especially Porter County, but diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, maternal health, as well as child health, mental illness is another one, our top 5. So I would love, and I will volunteer myself, to be part of maybe a community sounding board, because you do have a very huge task, very large responsibility for the folks here in Porter County. But our healthcare system also, we saw this exact same need, and so there is very much a very strong synergy between exactly what the healthcare department is trying to go forward with, as well as our healthcare system. For the past 7 years, we have actually taken initiative as a healthcare system, and we have a team of outreach nurses. We don't charge for many of our screenings, and the main focus, we're truly here to serve people. It's not necessarily to vaccinate, because we do believe in the freedom of choice in any medical care that patients receive, but it's really to teach and help prevent, especially these 5 areas. So our nurses have been out working with community. We, of course, are within the healthcare system, but we try to stay unbiased and give referrals to different specialists within the healthcare system and guide people. We try to catch a lot of these things early: blood pressure, cardiovascular issues. We have one of our nurses here who is a specialist in nutrition, but they are RNs. So we have a great team. I would hope that the board and the commissioners, as you move forward with this great, I think, potential SEA4 funding, will reach out to those healthcare systems that are already here in our communities and serving our county residents. So I'm looking forward to that, and I do value. The gentleman who mentioned long haulers, our healthcare system actually has a long haulers clinic. So we do treat folks that have some of those issues. So we have tried to fill those needs, and we do continue to update that community needs assessment as well. So I'd like to offer myself in any way that I can assist you, because I am a Porter County resident. My thoughts are is we're here to make a difference. God has given each one of us gifts, and so we need to use those to make our communities better. And so we are here to do that. Thank you.
And Lisa is also on our POCO Wellness Connection board, and we've already talked to Carrie about continuing on, especially with some assistance in the funding. And so it's not just about medical treatment, it's also about looking towards health and wellness, and I really appreciate you being a part of that.
Well, thank you for all that you do. We appreciate it too, and we are partners in the community, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jerry Eagle, live here in the Valparaiso area. As I quote from President Reagan, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Okay, so when we look at the last 3 years, that was the big test. That was the major test of our public health system, and they were tasked. It was an unknown when it first came on the scene. And so we were just grasping at whatever we can to try to figure out what to do. Well, there should be a lot of lessons learned out of these last 3 years, okay? And one of the things that I hope when you work with the board is to try to address those issues, because as the gentleman said about mandates, and all those things, the masking, the mandates, standing 6 feet away from each other, wearing a mask, walking into a restaurant, but when you sit down, you can take it off. All these illogical things that happened didn't do anything to, quote, flatten the curve. That's what they were trying to do, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Well, so I'll readdress that here in a second, but it is a fact that the state of Indiana ranks 45th of the 50 states in terms of public health, and yeah, we have issues. And they state that the obesity, smoking, life expectancy are part of the main problem areas. The fact that sudden infant death syndrome is on the rise, and now we got this sudden adult death syndrome, SADS, on the rise. Teen suicide, death by fentanyl, overdoses, all those things are going on the rise. So things are just getting out of hand. The data is showing that there's a rise in what we call unexplained deaths. I just read in the paper not too long ago about a guy that was a big contributor to the COVID response team down at Lafayette at Purdue University, passed away in his early 50s. He was a big proponent of the vaccines, probably got vaccines boosted, the whole works, collapsed just like that. Unexplained heart attack. In 1961, my childhood vaccine schedule was this: polio, smallpox, diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. That's it. That's all I had, 5. Today, you have a kid showing up, first thing out of the birth canal, hepatitis shot, right away, right out of the channel. And it starts from there. For the next 18 years, that child is going to be like a pincushion with 72 scheduled shots. Some are, repeats or whatever. So why did we go from a core of 5 to 72? Well, in 1984, the entire vaccine, big pharma thing exploded with all these things coming online. And here we are, we have a public health system that's pushing that. So is it any wonder we're seeing an increase in autism and some infant deaths among children? Now, those in the public health apparatus say, we've already proven that it doesn't, vaccines don't cause autism. Well, what do you do to explain it? You show the trend, and all of a sudden, 1984, trends going up in autism. So these are the things that need to be addressed as to what's going on. The other thing is, we have the same administrative staff that is making up the public health apparatus that will continue to be employed, but now we're giving them a bigger paycheck to work with. Do we expect any different results? It's like this, definition of insanity over and over again, but expect the same results or different results. So what am I asking? The recommendation that I have for you, since you've indicated that approval for the SEA funding, I'm asking you to attach conditions to establish local control over our local public health department. Don't have the state just dictate all the terms. Number one, never again. Okay, never again allow our public health department, or any public health for that matter, a group of unelected bureaucrats impose their will in terms of mandates on the public. Okay? They can make all the recommendations they want, but don't be imposing these as their will against us. Okay? Let us decide. Give us the information, let us decide. Allow parents to opt out from CDC-recommended vaccine schedules for their children. This should not require any form of an exemption for having some other person making a judgment call whether that parent knows what's good for their own child, okay? Whether it's religious, medical, or anything like that. No, that's up to the parent to decide. They can participate limited, or participate the full thing, or say not at all. Funding for autopsies. Okay, for any unexplained death that occurs, and if a family can't afford it, but they want to know why, allow that funding from the Public Health Department to determine what caused that death. All of a sudden, kid on the field drops dead. Unexplained heart attack. Sad. Well, let's check the blood, let's check the organs, let's check what's going on with his heart. Where did this come from? Where did this myocarditis, where did this thrombosis come from? What's going on? We need to do that. So we need to address a change in leadership focus in our health department from a big pharma solution to like a more of a holistic approach. If we hand over a significant boost in taxpayer funding to the same people who just failed us during the pandemic, how can we expect a different result? So really, the public confidence is low. I was looking at the state health department completion rate of vaccines and right now Porter County holds a rate of about 61% of the population has participated in the vaccine schedule. For the state of Indiana in 2020, it was around 70%. That's before the COVID shots were rolled out. They were rolled out in 2021. It went from 70.2% to 61% in 2021 to 57% in 2022, now only 56.4%. That shows a lack of confidence by the public in the medical and public health apparatus. So how do we fix that? Well, our public health departments, as well as the medical system, they require an admission that their policies were not effective and that they are willing to learn lessons from what happened. Their policies disrupted countless lives, businesses, and families. The use of political propaganda messaging drove people apart. For example, we had a president recently that said, "We have a pandemic of the unvaccinated." Can you imagine that? The top-down messaging that propagated through our public health system into our public square created unbelievable discrimination against those who chose not to participate. Got no vax, you got no job. Got no mask, you can't enter. You got no vax and no mask? Boy, I tell you what, if you catch the COVID, you're on your own. Don't expect any help. That was basically the position a lot of people had. And this needs to stop. This needs to stop. So I did see on the slide, and I was going to say require a paradigm shift from treatment to prevention. So I saw the prevention. So that should focus on healthy lifestyles and not reliant so much on these pharma products to promote health. There's a lot of other ways to do it besides just jabbing these kids with up to 72 shots in the course of their young adults' life. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
going to get you next, ma'am, in the back. I didn't forget, I see you. I'll get you next.
This one works, right? My name is Jennifer Hoare. I'm a resident of Porter County, and I just wanted to thank Dr. Stamp, all the people from her office and from the Board of Health that put all the work into the presentation tonight and getting information out. It's just so helpful. I just know how much work went into that, not knowing if there would be any result. And it was some really impressive information. So I just wanted to very briefly acknowledge the amount of work that went into that.
Thank you. State your name, please.
I will. My name is Debbie Frey, and I live in Valparaiso, and I wanted to thank you tonight for your vote that shows confidence in a wonderful presentation that helped me understand all of the things that you are faced with accepting the money. You've done a tremendous job in the past, as I've been a beneficiary of, and as one of those old folks, too.
I hear you.
I'll be elated to see about your outreach for those of us who are seniors. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to let us come and speak, and we hear a variety of opinions here, but you made the right decision, and the money, and I listened to presentations by Senator Charbonneau. I mean, the data are there. We have issues in Indiana with health, and we need to address them, and anything that our local health department can do is going to make this a better place for us to live. And so thank you very much for this. I'm elated. I can't say enough good things about these hard-working people. You got this.
Yes, Ruth?
Good evening. I'm Ruth Vance from Valparaiso. I have questions, and maybe they're rhetorical because I don't know that you can answer them or will. Oh, can you not hear me? Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so from what I understand, and I could be wrong, that from this legislation, the county has an obligation to pay a 25% copay of what they're getting from the state. Is that correct? Okay. So I don't know how much the current county budget is providing.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
So on
You don't have to
average.
ask me.
So on average, over the past 3 years, it was $1,339,572. So the 25% match on the low end, and it looks like the low end for 25. So that was what they have to match in '24, is the average of the last 3 commitments from the council for their budgeting.
So there's enough money and there's not a deficit that the county would have to.
Now, the one thing is.
The answer is correct.
Okay.
Now, but the match for 25 is 25%, and so on the low end, it would be $844,423.13. So that would actually be less than what the county has been currently budgeting to the health department.
Okay. Years going forward, though, I would just, it's a concern that if the county ever comes up with a deficit to be able to make that amount, where's the money going to come from? More taxes, or I don't know. And then I'm wondering, I know that the county health department would probably have to contract out for some services. And I would just suggest that they come up with a metric, a way of really figuring out if that investment in that particular vendor was good and it worked out well. There should be some kind of metric evaluation. I would suggest that you put in place for that. And I also would suggest, since this is such a new thing, that your county commissioners should put on your schedule either every year or every 2 years to revisit this to see if you change your mind and want to opt out, so that it doesn't just get away from you. You know, I thought that would be a good idea to do that. And I just,
I thought I made that clear, but go ahead.
you did, okay, thank you. Okay, so that you will revisit it, that's good, because the problem is, it's all too enticing when money is offered to us to take it. But there's always strings attached to that money, and we have to always be cognizant of that fact, and that I hate to see the county cede its authority to the state. And then you know the state is going to cede their authority to the feds. And we know our country has already ceded its authority to the World Health Organization, and that really concerns me. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Sheila Majecki.
You know, the last speaker has to buy dinner for everybody.
There you go. This speaker has to see it on her phone, okay. Public health is vital to our communities. It is, but it's not an excuse for irresponsibility or lack of transparency or common sense. The problem that I see, besides people not trusting our government, not trusting our health department, is the lack of transparency. It's what's not said, but it's these drugs, but we don't say what the drugs are, or someone at the school, but we don't know exactly who at the school. It's just a very big lack of transparency. The legislators put everybody in a very bad position. You win if you take the money, but if you don't do exactly what they say, you are at risk of losing that money. The Governor's Public Health Commission made their intention clear on June 30th, 2022. To be clear, this is only the foundation for their plan to centralize public health and force compliance of counties in the future. They were clear that autonomous counties are the enemy. We tried to warn the legislators by exposing these truths via snippets of that meeting that can be found on Hoosiers for Medical Liberty. As was already mentioned about the masks, mandates, and vaccines. He continued, we are trying to avoid that kind of situation by making sure that everyone who is in the program wants to be in the program and wants to participate. Well, what do you think that means? He refers directly to the fight back and forth about mass and vaccinations. He is referring to the brave counties that stood their ground and refused to comply with the harsh lockdowns. The very lockdowns that are now known to have had devastating effects on our economy, our health, but worst of all, the mental and intellectual health of our school children. He knows that the keys to preventing the preservation of liberty is limiting your ability to protect your constituents in the future. He knows the best way to do that is through financial strings. What does he mean by the second statement? Avoid that kind of situation. He means that by giving you the ability to choose to opt in, which you've done, you agree to whatever strings are attached. They will use this against countless counties who opt in just the way they did during COVID. Do you remember the ESSR funds tied to how schools reopened? Do you remember the response to dissent? No problem, you don't have to comply, but if you don't, you are going to lose your funding and pay it back. I mean, someone in Chester, some school district in Chesterton had to put in some kind of weird bathroom because of funding. Your vote to opt in is your eternal yes to whatever the State Department of Health or the public health powers that be determine in the name of public health. Legislators crowded about the clause in SCA 4 about retaining county power. What they failed to realize, or maybe failed to see, is that there is a loophole later in the bill. Again, we tried to point this out and we were ignored. This loophole will be exploited, and whatever administrative rules the state health department adopts will bind the county. Unelected health officials that you appoint will be forced to choose between following these rules and the funding they have already budgeted and spent. What happens when those rules are contract tracing, limiting the number of people who can gather, business closures, or requirements to check a vaccine passport? You must ask yourself, what did your county do in those situations? How would the course of COVID been different if the brave counties didn't have the liberty to decide the best course of action in your county? Would they still be trying to force mask mandates? The reason this program is being set into place is not about public health, it's about control. Just like the whole COVID thing was about control, and we all know that now. If those brave counties were restricted by financial strings, we never would have been able to end the mask mandates. Thanks to the Politico article praising the progressive Eric Holcomb for his leadership prioritizing public health, this is on the world stage. The program that will be used as a blueprint to strip counties across the nation of their autonomy and undermine the Constitution while claiming you chose to be in the program, agreed to the terms, you wanted to participate. Clearly, by what I have presented, this vote is one skirmish in the battle for the sovereignty of this great country. Will this vote be the shot heard around the world? We are not asking you to pledge your lives, your fortunes, or your sacred honor. We are asking you to vote to opt no, and I know you already voted to opt in, but when, everything that I've listened to as a 38-year nurse is, we're going to have a commission, we're going to study this, you should have already had those numbers. Those numbers should have been brought forth first. That's the first thing. How's our diabetes? What are we doing about prevention? What are we doing in the cardiovascular world? There should be some numbers there already. We shouldn't be, let's do this new bill, get all this money so that we can do the numbers.
Well, that doesn't mean that we can't take the money that we'll be receiving this coming year, and do that that's one of the things we do with it. I think that's why there's that provision in the bill that we can opt in and we can opt out. And if the state government, and in my heart of hearts, I don't want to believe that they created this bill to control us. But if
you got a history, they got a little history behind
That's all
it.
right.
That's the thing.
But if that was their end goal here, they've grossly underestimated the power of local government.
Okay, I hope so. Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for your time. I wanted to thank the Public Health Commission. God bless America.
And I want to thank you and everyone for speaking. And I want to encourage everybody that has concerns, you can attend the health board meetings. You can understand what they're doing. You can attend commissioners' meetings. Feel free to speak up at both. If you're concerned about what's happening downstate in the legislature, please get involved. It is critical that everybody that has concerns, that they get involved and that they make their opinions and their concerns known as well. So
Thank you.
It's really important that we all work together.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Last call. Well, thank you all very much for hanging in here. It's now 7:02. Thank you, and I recess, and have a nice evening.